Hello everyone and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, and today we're going to be looking at the latest individual state polls for all of the battleground states. Make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe to the channel for more polling updates just like this. And speaking of polling, before we get into the video, we have officially started a fundraising campaign for SoCal Strategies, the pollster that me and Red Eagle Politics are co-sponsoring together. For the rest of the cycle, we are going to be in the field in the state of Pennsylvania and in many other states, as well as nationally over the next couple of weeks until election day. We also have plans to do exit polling data on election day, and so we need to raise about $10,000 to make this possible. At least that is a minimum amount. Make sure to go ahead and donate whatever you possibly can. Share this fundraiser on X or anywhere on social media. Any support that you could be able to give to us would be greatly appreciated. Now, going back to the video, the first state of Nevada, we can clearly see here in this first poll in the state of Nevada, Donald Trump leads by 3 percentage points according to the latest Trafalgar poll, which was conducted from August 6th to the 8th. With almost 1,100 likely U.S. voters, Donald Trump had about 48% of the vote. In 2020, he got about 47% of the vote, and if we look at 2016, he got about 45%. So he'd be improving from both of his election cycles. All of the states in the darker shade of their respective color are states above 15-point margins. Anything that is in a lighter shade is below 15 points, and that's how we're going to be going over the states in this video. And so essentially looking at the state of Nevada, it's pretty interesting because he's never gotten above 48%, but with the state, how it's been trending to the right, it's definitely possible for him to be able to do so. And so according to the latest poll, he is at a 3-point margin in the state of Nevada. Just to give you guys a little bit of context, this is not an official prediction, but merely just what the latest individual poll in every single state suggests what would happen. Looking at this state of Alaska, the next state on here, I believe we really don't have any polling between Trump and Harris as of this cycle. And the margin last cycle was about 10 points. So if there is a state where there is no data per se, we're going to just apply the 2020 result to the map, in this case R plus 10 in the state of Alaska. Now, the next state, Arizona, which is a major swing state that Biden won by 0.3 percentage points in the latest poll. Trump has a very narrow lead according to Trafalgar by a single percentage point, being at around 48% in the state. This was conducted with almost 1,100 likely U.S. voters from August 6th to the 8th as well. We're going to be putting that in the lean Republican column. Looking at the state of Colorado, a state that's been really pretty much trending to the left by a ridiculous amount. We don't have any polling here between Trump and Harris as of right now. And so looking at the 2020 results, we have a 13.5-point victory for the incumbent President Joe Biden, and we will be putting that in the likely column for this video. Looking at the state of New Mexico, this is another crucial, state that went for Biden by 11 points in the last cycle. We do actually have polling here where Harris is up by 7 points according to a Redfield and Wilton Strategies poll, which almost has 500 likely voters. That was conducted between July 31st and August 3rd. Donald Trump at about 37% of the state vote. Now, what's interesting is that in 2016, Trump actually got about 40%, and he ended up getting about 43% in 2020 here. So I don't believe that 37% number. If anything, Trump's vote share is probably being underestimated in the state of New Mexico. Now, does he get 48, 49? No, but can he get 44, 45? Absolutely. I think that's definitely possible, especially since Hispanic voters are trending to the right this year, and this is a decent sized demographic in the state of New Mexico. So I think it's possible for this state to shift to the right, but according to the latest poll, we do have D plus 7 for Kamala Harris, which puts it in the likely Democrat column. Looking at the state of Kansas, this is another state that's kind of trending to the left ever so slightly. No new polling data from Trump v. Harris. The matchup was about a plus 14.6 popular vote victory in the state of Kansas, putting it in the likely Republican column. In the state of Texas, we have another battleground state, 40 crucial electoral votes here. The latest polling does not have a Trump-Harris matchup as of right now, going through all the data here. Maybe there is an old one. The oldest one actually is a R plus 13 poll for Donald Trump. That is the last poll conducted all the way back in January by the YouGov, which is actually a pretty liberal pollster. So that's going to be going in the likely column as well. Nebraska's second, I would presume, would go in the likely column, as that was the result back in the previous election, and there is no new polling in Nebraska's second, which did go for Biden by 6.6%. So we will be applying that same result in this forecast, which gives Harris an extra electoral vote. In the state of Iowa, we can go ahead and look at the polling data here. I believe that there is not any new polling data in this state. The last one was conducted by Senegal with 600 likely voters on July 8th through the 9th, with Biden as the Democrat nominee and Trump getting above 50%, which in the more recent polls, that's what he was doing. And so this does put the state technically in the likely column. However, the result that we're going to be using is the R plus 8 result as a substitute until we get polling data from the state of Iowa. Minnesota is interesting because this state's been trending to the left, and with Harris exciting new voters, it does make sense looking at the latest 538 likely voters screen from July 31st to August 3rd. The latest Redfield and Wilton Strategies poll does have Harris up by 5 points in the state of Minnesota, putting that in the likely Democrat column. Going to the state of Wisconsin, the latest poll actually has Harris at a 9-point win in the state of Wisconsin. Now, this seems extremely unrealistic. This does put the state in the likely column for this video. However, I do tell you guys, do not take this poll seriously. Trump is at about 40% here. Just to give you an idea, he's never gotten below 47.2% in the state of Wisconsin ever. If we look at Romney, he got 45%. McCain got 42%. So, really, they actually were more likely to end up getting in the low 40s than Trump ever is, because Trump has actually never been below 47.2% in the state. I actually expect him to crack about 49% in the state this cycle. And so to see a poll out here that has Trump at 40%, I think is just malpractice. I think that that is a very unrealistic result. Going into the numbers, it seems like the demographics here, as well as the national electorate, are really skewed to the left. You're talking about like a D+7 electorate in Wisconsin, and the electorate there was like roughly tied in 2020. And with the national popular vote shifting to the right, I could see the electorate being like R+1 or R+2 in Wisconsin. So it doesn't really make any sense, but the latest poll does indicate that it would be a likely victory for Kamala Harris. Now, looking at the state of Michigan, this is another poll that's pretty crazy. We see that Harris is actually up by 6 points, Kennedy at 7%. Again, Trump at 40%. He's never gotten, if we look at the state of Michigan, he's never gotten below 47.5% in the state ever. He's been above 47.5% in the state at all costs. And so for him to be getting 40% in a swing state that he narrowly won the first time and barely lost the second time really doesn't make any sense, considering that his approval ratings are near what they were in 2020. And so again, I think this is another ludicrous poll, but this does put the state in the likely Democrat column. Looking at the state of Ohio, this is a poll that tends to underestimate Republicans, but if we look at this new poll from July from Fundraiser, we see Trump is up 10 in the state of Ohio. applying historical polling errors, you could possibly see a safe margin out of the state depending on how things play out. Looking at the state of Florida, this is a poll. Again, Democrats overestimated here by quite a bit. From July 31st to August 3rd, about 1,000 U.S. likely voters. Redfield Wilton Strategies does have Trump up by 6 points in the state of Florida. That does put the state in the likely Republican column, bringing him to 226 electoral votes. Looking at this state of Georgia, we'll see in the latest poll here, the aggregate's actually now tied, which is pretty nuts, but the latest poll from Redfield and Wilton Strategies all the way from July 31st to August 3rd does actually have Trump up by 2 points, and he's sitting at about 46%. Now, he's never gotten below 49% in the state, so I'm kind of having a hard time believing that number, but as of right now, that does put the state in the lean Republican column. Looking at the state of South Carolina, this is a Republican state that's kind of been trending to the left very slightly. No new polling data with Trump and Harris, I believe. So we are going to get the 2020 margin, which was about R plus 12. That is in the likely Republican column. And looking at the state of North Carolina, this is another state that's fairly interesting. We actually see the latest poll is tied, and this was from a Dem internal, and people were freaking out about this, and he's at 46%, but in the state of North Carolina, he's actually never been below 49.8% ever in the state. He actually got a higher vote share in 2020. He's never been below 49.8% in the state. So any poll that hasn't below that amount is pretty ridiculous. I'd actually believe Trafalgar's poll more than any pollster, to be completely honest with you, because his vote share here is actually relatively accurate for the most part. He's never been below 49.8% in the state of North Carolina, and that's why I trust my R plus 5 categorization so much. But based on the fact that this was a tie, the previous poll being a lean Republican poll, I am going to put this in the tilt Republican column in this video. And Trump is very close to winning, but we don't have very many options for him to win. But fortunately for him, the state of Virginia hasn't really gotten polled. In the latest poll from FAU, all the way back from July 14th to the 15th, actually has Donald Trump up by 4 points. So that does go in the lean Republican column, and that actually puts the former president at 280 electoral college votes in this video. So he is still winning the electoral college map. Looking at the state of Pennsylvania, this is a state that's been in play the past 2 cycles. We do see from this new group, Harris +4. Basically, New York Times Hampshire College had a +2 lead for Harris. If you look at their sample, they had like a D+6 sample for Biden, and he only won the state by 2. So if you were to apply that adjustment sample, Trump would actually be up by 2 in the state. So but either way, looking at this, we clearly see that the former president is not up right now in the latest poll. That is going to put the state in the lean Democrat column, bringing Harris pretty close to 270, but not just quite enough yet. Looking at the state of New Hampshire, this is also pretty interesting too, because it seems like the Democrat sample here was probably too high. Again, Trump in the state of New Hampshire, if you actually look at past results, he's actually never gotten below 45.4%. So again, for him to be at 41% really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I actually would trust a little bit more polls like this, for example, like University of New Hampshire, which has him at 46, 44, even 48 could possibly happen. Even polls that have him in the low, areas is kind of strange too. And then now we clearly see that Harris is up pretty substantially in the state right now in the latest poll. So it does go to Harris. Now, Maine at large, as well as the districts, are the last state to fill out. If we go to the state, what's actually interesting is that they actually conducted polling in the actual districts themselves, and they've overestimated Democrats by a ridiculous amount. We do have a Harris +8 matchup, which is pretty interesting. So it is going to be in the likely Democrat column. We do have Maine's first being a 20-point victory for Harris, so that does go in the safe column. And then Maine's 2nd congressional district is just a 4-point victory with Kennedy on the ballot, so that does go in the lean Republican column. But again, this result really doesn't make sense because Maine at large, or at least the 2nd congressional district, 7-point victory for Trump. 2016, he won it by 10%, and he's never gotten below 51% in Maine's 2nd congressional district ever. So I actually have a hard time seeing him only win it by less than 5. And so that is it for this video, guys. Donald Trump is still winning the Electoral College map with 280 electoral votes, or at least 281 electoral votes to Harris's 257. If North Carolina was going blue on the map, Harris would actually be winning this polling video. This is just all the latest polling from these individual swing states. Make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this, and I will see you guys in the next video.